Hey y'all, it's me again. Um, yeah, so it's been quite an interesting day for me, especially being that, God has definitely been speaking some things to me concerning me, about me, for me, and all of that. And and all of the things he said, he told me to make sure I get just a fraction of what he told me concerning me to y'all. So, and all of y'all that know me know, I am not an attention seeker and I don't like a whole lot of attention. Who I am on a day to day basis and all of that. Though for those of you who really know me, knows I enjoy camaraderie and companionship and all of that. But and I live my life and I enjoy myself. But when it comes to a lot of attention from a lot of other people and putting myself out there and stuff like that, it is, yeah, it's not something I do. So, but yeah, I'm just here to talk about four things that God gave me concerning me that He wanted me to also translate to you. It is prayer, plan, proclaim, and possess. So, first off, you need to pray for, if for nothing else, then to keep your line of communication open. If your line of communication is close to heaven, then you cannot ensure that what you're doing is in the perfect will of God. You could be operating in His permissible will. If you're not sure what He said, go into prayer. Do what it is that got you where it is you are now. So what that simply means is you can't talk to everybody. You can't ask a bunch of people the same question, because first of all, when you ask more than one person the same question, you're going to get multiple answers. That's first thing. Second off, people can only answer you based off of their own personal experience. So if you're talking to someone about driving a car that's never even thought about getting their license, they can have a knowledge of how the car works and all of that with no application. So it's not to say that they'll be 100% wrong, but there are aspects that they will never be able to. There are levels there that they'll never be able to talk about because they don't actually have the experience. If you never tasted a strawberry, you can figure out what a strawberry tastes like because you've heard what other people talk about concerning strawberries. However, you don't have an opinion about a strawberry because you never had one. So you got to stop talking to people. You got to talk to God. Figure out what is it that He is saying. What is it that He's doing? What is it that He's putting in your heart, in your mind? And stop looking for validation. Because when you are looking for validations from people, what you automatically do is you remove yourself from what it is that God is actually saying. What do I mean? So, if God is saying to you, build the business, build the ministry. Do these things in my honor and all of that. And you go and you talk to someone. You don't go, hey, I'm trying to figure out, because God did something. God is saying something, and I'm trying to understand what he's saying. That's not how you go to them. You always go, well, I'm kind of thinking about starting this business. Nobody's really doing this right now and all of that. So then what happens there is, when you get a response, the response you get is yes or no from your friends or family that can be anti the answer from God. God could be saying doing it, but because you're talking to people that don't have the connection you have to heaven, or don't have the vision you have for the earth, you'll end up talking to people who will talk you out of the very thing that God assigned to your hands. So you got to first pray. Hear the heart and the mind of God. Know what it is he's saying and do it. Now, when you do it, because this leads me to my second point, because when you get out of prayer, a plan should show up. And sometimes it's not going to show up right away. Sometimes you need time to process what he's saying, what he's doing, and all of that. And all of that still comes through prayer. Get a clean understanding of what it is he's doing, what it is he is saying. But you still got to make a plan. You don't get to do the will of God, work in the house of God, work for God, and wing it. You don't get to do it. When you wing it, you allow things to creep in that is not supposed to be there. Have you ever lived off of, have you ever had just a couple of $100s to live off of, and you didn't make a budget on how that money was supposed to be spent? What always ends up happening, because the plan is not about anything else but about discipline and structure in order to be in the will of God. So if you have ever had just a couple $100s to live off of for the rest of the month, what almost always happens is you end up spending that money on things and items and even people when you finna be broke. You know what you got. You know you ain't got no more money coming in this month and all of that. And yet it goes down the drain quickly because discipline and structure did not show up. You got to plan. You got to budget. You got to know what it is you need. How many people, if you are building a business, you need to know what that business model needs to look like. Ford is not trying to be Tesla. Tesla is not trying to be Volkswagen. Volkswagen is not trying to be Buick. You got to figure out what works for you and then do it. Not only just do it, but you got to write it out. Habakkuk tells us to write the vision and make it plain. And don't just say make it plain so that way you can read it and understand it for yourself. It means make it plain so in such a way that it can be passed on to others so that they turn around and can execute your vision the way you saw it. The way God gave it to you. Discipline and structure is always going to be a part of this process. About the second point, about planning. If you don't discipline, if you do not place discipline in the heart of what it is you are doing, you're going to miss the whole boat. It is absolutely necessary. Then thirdly, you have to make a proclamation. This proclamation is not for God. The proclamation is for your team. It's for those who's riding with you. It's for your connections. It's for your investors. It's for your lineage. It is the proclamation, if you will, look at it as a will. The last will and testament of a person when they die is them saying, this is what you deserve. And in a lot of places and a lot of times in a will, they give very clear instructions on what to do, how to do what to do, and what they want, the way they want, why they want what they want. You got to make the proclamation very clear. You got to stand flat-footed and firm. If you don't, the proclamation that you will be presenting will be failure. You got to proclaim that in which God has given you. You got to give the people what it is that's on your heart and your mind. Because if you don't, what you will get is a bunch of people, what you'll end up with is hirelings, not purposed people. So you would have hired a bunch of employees, but you would have gotten zero buy-in. It is important for those who work for you and with you and around you to buy into your vision. If you don't, you'll be working by yourself. You'll be trying to do what it is, and you'll be proclaiming from the rooftops, God told me to do this, and God told me to do that, and all of this, and nobody do nothing you say because you got no buy-in. You got to stand flat-footed and firm, declare the heart of God, and at the same time, declare what your vision and what your mission is, because there's nothing worse than having people that believe in you but don't know what your purpose is. What are you trying to accomplish? Where did this come from? How did we get here? Your proclamation has to be clear and concise. After that, finally and foremost, the fourth point is going to be possess it. If you did 1, 2, and 3 correctly, 4 is always going to be easy. When you work the system that God gave you, when you work that plan, you'll be able to get everything that God intended for you. You'll be able to be the source of light you was always meant to be. You'll be able to be the source of encouragement that you was always meant to be. Your business will grow. Your family will grow. Your finances will grow. Everything that your grandparents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents have spoken over your life will not only be obtained, but be possible, but be in your hands. They spoke it in you because they saw it in you. They knew what you were capable of. They knew what you were. They knew what was going to be in you. They knew what was already there. They already knew. You have to work the system that works. But don't forget, you cannot get a big head. You don't get to a level that God brought you to and act like you always had it. Your journey, especially those of you who are successful, your journey is more meaningful than your possession. Your process is always going to be necessary. You have to know the difference as well, though, as what people put on you and what God gave you. I promise you, some of the stuff that you do is not what God called you to do. Some of this stuff was brought up and was created to be a distraction for you. No, it was. Whether you want to admit it or not, it was. Some of this stuff was made to keep you so busy that you never get to fulfill purpose. And one thing that you don't want is to be looking at all that God has put in your hands and looking at all the things that you possess, not just materialistically, but all the things that you possess spiritually. All the things that you have that is obtainable to you, and still fail God. Because you have it don't mean you automatically have won. Because if you did your plan right, you would have identified what a win looks like. Sometimes we have possessed things that sometimes may have felt premature. Sometimes we possess things that, or we're in the possession of items and things and stuff like that, and it reminds us of where we come from. It reminds us of how hard we work, that we didn't always have this. Like this little boy from the hood, from Hempstead, New York. I've had more, money have slipped through my hands like that. A lot of it was due to poor planning. So I possessed a lot of things, but I didn't keep a lot of things. So my possession looked like I was winning, when in all actuality, it was God showing me what I could have if I had more discipline. When you have possessions and no discipline, excuse me, what happens literally is you go from the possession to the process to being pained to being poor. That's not just being financially poor. That's being spiritually poor. That is you being all of everything else that is you. Never lose sight of what's important. But don't be so afraid of the unknown that you don't do and you don't go after the very thing that God ordained for your life. Don't get so busy working a 9-to-5 that your entrepreneurship never happens. Now, you need the 9-to-5. Because, again, there's structure. And it's going to teach you things for your entrepreneurship. But if you never go after it, you can never have it. Not only possess it, but you don't get to keep it for yourself. Because one day you're going to die. And everything you got has got to live on some kind of way, right? If what you do is only meant for your lifetime right now, then I got nothing else to say. But if you are leading to leave a legacy, then you have to train and you have to elevate those who work hard, those who deserve it. And the bottom line is, a lot of times in our communities, we don't do it. We see people who work hard and we abuse it instead of elevating those that deserve it. It's just what happens. But I promise you that if you make these 4 things the very things that you go after, that you seek after, that you do, I can guarantee you, and I'm not prophesying, I'm not finna prophet a lie or nothing like that, but I promise you that if you can do it, if you just stick to the plan, stick to the system that God gave us, pray, plan, proclaim, and then possess. If you can do those 4 things, you will be the better and the richer. Your spirit man will be the better and the richer. Your connections, your family, your friends, your relationships will all be grateful. So, until the next time, because I got one other thing for y'all that kind of came up in this, and y'all heard it. Y'all may have not known you heard it, but I heard it and it was very clear. And so, so we are going to see you again probably. And if God keep doing this, I'm gonna have to quit Facebook. Praise the Lord. But but I just wanted to tell y'all what it is. Some of the things that God gave me. I'll probably within the next couple of days do the video for the other 3 things for the opposite spectrum of that. But let us do what it is that God has called us to do in the beauty of holiness. Y'all have a great day, have a great night, all of that. Deuces.